Do you ever feel that your life is just happening to you? That you have no control or little power to actually change anything? But what if I were to tell you that there's a universal law that shows reality is changeable? And when you learn to properly understand it and use this law in your life, you will affect your reality and create the reality you prefer to experience. Now, it's important to say that this law can be used without you knowing you're actually using it, meaning that you could unknowingly be using this law and experiencing its powerful effect, but it's actually creating the opposite of what you want to experience in your life. Now, this is actually what happened to me, and I wasted a lot of time and I went through a lot of pain not understanding this law. So I'm making this video so that you can not waste your time and not go through the pain that I did. Now, this law comes from the book, the Kybalion, and the book shares the teachings of the ancient mystic Hermes Trismegistus. And this book talks about 7 universal laws that when you know and learn to master them, you begin to gain the ability to shape your reality. Now, in this video, we're going to be specifically talking about the second law, which is the law of correspondence. Now, this law is best known by the quote, "As above, so below. As within, so without." I'm going to share with you what the law of correspondence is, why it's so important, and how you can learn to practically use this law in your life. Now, it can be a little bit confusing to understand it and understand how to apply it. So I'm going to be using several real life examples so that you can wrap your head around it and start to utilize the power of this law, because this law, understanding it and using it, is what changed my life. Now, a little bit of context. Where most people go wrong understanding reality is they think that things outside of us happen without our control, and those experiences create our feelings inside. And because it's an outside experience, we don't have control or power to do anything about it. And this thinking keeps so many people stuck and feeling absolutely powerless to do anything about it. But the law of correspondence states that what happens around us is a direct reflection of what is happening within us. Our internal environments determine our external environments. So if you're thinking right now, wow, that sounds too good to be true, and your left brain is like, this is total bullshit, hang on a second, buckle up, because I am going to explain how this is the case. Because the law of correspondence says that our outside world is simply mirroring our inner environment. In the law of correspondence, this principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. Whatever internal dynamics it is that we're in, that is what we're going to find repeated in our outside world. So the word correspondence for me at first was really abstract. So 2 other words that helped me to digest this idea a bit more was to substitute the word consistency or correlation. So the law of correlation. There is a correlation between your inner world and your outer world, or you could think that your inner world is consistently played out in your outside experience. So next, what I want to do is show you how the law of correspondence is actually at the roots and foundation of 3 great teachers. So the first person I want to talk about is Neville Goddard. And basically at the core of Neville Goddard's teachings is your outside world is a reflection of your consciousness level. And another pillar of his teaching is the power of awareness. So when you become aware of yourself and learn to then raise your consciousness level, you will directly see that reflected in your outside world, meaning the internal world is what you can change. And when you change it, that's actually how you change your outside world. A huge thing on this was revision. When you learn to see yourself differently, shifting the meanings and the stories from your past, that is how the world will then show up to reflect that new vision of yourself. And basically that your level of consciousness, your inner dynamic, will either unlock heaven on earth or hell on earth that your level of consciousness is what will unlock that direct proportional reality. Now, the next person I want to talk about is Carl Jung. And even though he's not known as a spiritual teacher, I definitely see him as that. One of the pillars of his work is about the shadow. And my favorite quote by him right now is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. Until you're really aware of your inner world and all of those deep down things that you could be suppressing or repressing inside, until you get aware of that, it will keep playing out on the fabric of your reality and you'll think that that's who you are, not understanding that that's reflecting and that's your level of perception, and that's why you keep finding it. You don't see your reality right now through your eyes. You see your reality through your mind, and your mind is basically a construct of all your beliefs, and a belief is just a strong opinion. Whatever happened to you, you put a meaning as to why, or a story as to why it happened and who you are because of that, and you've held on to that as if it were absolute universal truth. And that is the lens on how you see the world. So you only find more of that energy. And when you start to look, oh, hang on a second. Let me get aware. Let me understand the correlation going on here. If I keep finding somebody who's treating me poor and not valuing me, how do I feel about myself? Where do I value me? And the last teacher I want to talk about to show how the law of correspondence is rooted in their work is Dr. Joe Dispenza. His whole thing is about how you think, how you act, and how you feel creates your state of being. And whatever your state of being is, you send that out electromagnetically, and the quantum field is going to then bring that back and reflect it back to you. Meaning that your inner world is getting reflected back to you in your outer world. And every possible reality of you exists right now. And your thoughts, feelings, and actions are basically the code you're typing in to the universe to send out your order form. And the universe delivers it, and you find it in your world. And if you want to see any changes, you're going to have to change those three things. Can you see other great teachers that you've researched, that you've come across, that the law of correspondence is heavily rooted? Comment below and let me know what other teachers you see the law of correspondence heavily rooted in their work. So it's not clear by now, the power of this is that you can change your world, because your outside is not fact. It's reflection. I'll say that again. Your outside world right now is not a fact. It is a reflection of some part of you that's getting reflected back, so you can become aware of it and level up your consciousness. So you can learn to read your outside world so that you can then understand, kind of like a data point on what's going on inside. And I'm going to talk more about this in just a bit. You can understand where things need to shift and what seeds need to be planted so you can see them bloom in your outside world. Not just at the mental level, but at the full level of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and ultimately actions. Correlation, the correspondence, the consistency is from the inside out, meaning that the power is inside of you and the power is in your hands. And to help you with this, I've actually created a worksheet, which you'll find the link in the description, to help you start to learn how to read these energies a little bit better. So now I'm going to show you how you can start to practically apply the law of correlation into your life and start creating change and consciously creating the life that you actually want. So I'm going to be giving a couple of real life examples so you can grab hold of this idea. The first one I'm going to give is relationships. This is where I personally started to understand. So first I'm going to share what I was seeing in my outside world. I kept finding emotionally unavailable people. I kept finding people who would kind of ghost me or be kind of wishy-washy. Sometimes they'd be into me, sometimes they wouldn't. And there was a really back and forth, like a roller coaster. And this, for many years, led to me thinking, oh, I got to work harder. I'm not enough. Something's wrong with me. Finally, what broke it is starting to understand, okay, if I'm seeing emotional unavailability, if I keep finding abandonment as my reflector, what energy from me is that coming from? Followed it all the way back to start understanding, oh, I'm emotionally abandoning myself when I start to seek to others to love and accept me so that I feel whole. When I don't think I'm whole, when I feel like my solution for my safety is outside of me, I'm denying my own essence. So when I started to understand that, resolve that, and learn to stay with myself rather than self-abandoned, I started finding a reflection of that. And I started to not become interested. I started to no longer attract. And I started to navigate situations differently that were showing up as emotional unavailability. I'm like, oh, that's actually not what I'm looking for. Oh, this person is now reflecting to me how I feel about myself. And because I had the beliefs and because I did all that inner work, it felt natural when people showed up and emotionally available. And ultimately that led to a lot more emotional fulfillment. Now, if you're having an issue with your friends and your community, and maybe you keep finding a lot of people who control or criticize you, what you can start to do is, rather than respond to it, rather than keep getting caught up in it, starting to understand, okay, what inner belief, what dynamic could this be coming from? And I want to make it very clear that this is not your fault. You are not causing these people to treat you this way. You are attracting people who meet that wound, who are the other half of that wound, into your life. You keep responding to that dynamic the same way you did as a kid. So starting to understand how to read the dynamic, to take the work and the attention inward so you can make the adjustments, that is where your power is. So if you have controlling friends, if you have criticizing friends or people around you, could be coworkers, you have to start looking, okay, where is it that I'm feeling powerless? Where maybe this could come from a dynamic when you were a kid, and maybe you had a sibling who would bully you or control you, or maybe you had a very critical parent. You've got to understand where you are basically not valuing yourself, where maybe you're being very critical of who you can be. Maybe you feel like, okay, if I show up in my full self, I'm going to get criticized or attacked, so I better dim my light. So when you dim your light and you self-abandon or you self-reject like that, and again, it's valid because you had to do it when you were younger, but when you recreate the past dynamic in your present moment, you're continuing to be that same version of yourself, and you'll continue to find that same reflection in your outside world. So starting to understand the dynamics of who you're being. Okay, I keep finding this person who's bullying me, who wants to be dominant over me. Okay, what is going on within myself? Oh, okay, this is recreating this idea that I can't really be myself. Okay, how can I learn to take care of myself? How can I learn to feel safe and that I have my own back and I'm not going to leave myself and be whoever that person thinks I should be or how that person thinks I should be? Learning more and more on how, again, you can stay with yourself and stop self-abandoning out of a fear that that other person has your sense of safety, and without them, their approval, then you're not going to be safe or something bad's going to happen. Now, another situation that you could be finding is at your job. Maybe your boss continues to demand more and more. Maybe you feel really nervous that if you don't meet the demands that they have, then you're going to be fired. So what you could start to see is, oh man, there's endless things that people need from me. They're always asking a lot of things. It's never good enough. And rather than getting stuck and trying to appease that outside world and feeling like, oh no, I'm a hamster on the wheel, all this energy I'm spending, no one appreciates me, going back, okay, what do I believe about myself? Do I believe that my worth is connected to pleasing this person? How can I learn to vocalize my power? How can I learn to value myself more so I stand up to myself? And the more you do this, the more you'll find that it disconnects from those those energies that want to dominate you. When you learn to be in your full self, you'll start to attract people and dynamics that value you as well. So I'm hoping that you can see the law of correspondence, that rather than focusing on that outside world and saying, oh no, I keep finding friends who are controlling me. What am I going to do? How can I please them out there? Oh, okay, what is coming from me? What do I believe? Do I believe I'm powerless to take care of myself? Do I believe that I'm worthy as I am? Or do I feel like I have to be the best employee? Because if I'm not, then I'm going to get fired. If I don't do 8 times the work of other people, then I'm not going to be valuable. Or maybe you're the scapegoat. No one else does their work, but yet there you are picking up everyone's slack. Go to the root of what belief you have about that. Go to the root of yourself. Why is it that I feel if I don't do more work than others, then I'll be put out, or that's my worth, or that's my responsibility. The more you unravel what meaning or story you're putting on that dynamic, the more you get to the source of the reflection. Your outside world right now is reflecting where you are psychologically. This makes me think of Carl Jung. Until you become conscious of your unconscious, it will continue to play out on the fabric of your reality, and you'll think that's life, compared to, oh, that's reflecting where I am at my consciousness level. The more you evolve, the more you see from a different set of eyes, and those old situations you'll navigate in a new way and begin to break free of those energies that you have felt locked and stuck and powerless to. The law of correlation, the law of consistency, the law of correspondence, whatever way you need to see it to understand that your inner world is all you'll be able to perceive of. And when you start to perceive of where it's coming from and start to shift the way you see yourself, value yourself, become emotionally available to yourself, the more your outside world will start to dissolve and new energetic patterns will come up. The old ones you'll navigate in a new way, holding your own, and the new ones will actually reflect that higher level value of yourself, those experiences you really deserve to have. The more you use this law of correspondence to your benefit by taking the energy, rather than getting caught up in the outside world, taking that energy back to you, understanding yourself, becoming conscious of what has been in the dark, what have you been unaware of, that has actually been playing out on the canvas of your life. I guarantee learning how to read your energy this way rather than getting stuck that way will dramatically change your life, because this is what I did. I kept finding people who are not there emotionally. They were unfulfilling. And when I learned to start understanding where I was self-rejecting, I started showing up for myself, which shifted the dynamic and actually allowed emotionally available people to show up in my outside world. The law of correspondence is going to allow you to start to read your energy and your life in a completely different way. There's another powerful tool that I've been using in my life, and I know it can help you gain more awareness and create the changes you're looking for. This next video right here is going to break down what that technique is, how you can utilize it in your life so that you can start creating the life you want, and guess what? The life you really deserve to have. So check it out right here.